Well, here we are live on a Wednesday night
Ooh, sorry.
at 6:59 p.m. Uh, the
I was,
29th of April.
I was just getting the latest forecast,
I was
Joe.
gonna say, did you did you
Actually,
write everything down so you know what to say?
they didn't do too badly here. I mean, they said for April 24th through 30th, rainy periods and cool. I think they're going to be right, or they are right,
Yeah,
except for yesterday.
saying that you're gonna have rainy periods and cool in the month of in late April
Yes.
isn't exactly your skill score is not going to be very high. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So, clouds came in today on time. We've got a lot of weather going on. We're setting up for the potential for some flooding. So, the Weather Service aptly putting up flood watches for a fairly large area. So, I'm going to bring up.
I was kind of wondering, we all knew early on in the day today that we were going to have significant rainfall, possibly flooding rains here later tomorrow and especially tomorrow night.
Right. All right, Joe, you still. All right, punch your camera up. So, we took our internet hit early.
Yeah.
Just really bizarre. It just really is bizarre. I have three. So I just got rid of it. So maybe if now that it doesn't see it, I won't have these crashes. Let's hope and pray. See, I'm still here. So welcome everybody tonight. And as you were saying, Joe, we knew that the rain was coming, but
Yeah, but for whatever reason, the New York City zones didn't put up a flood watch until later today, whereas everybody else all around us had flood watches or advisories up since early this morning.
right, the
So
last map I have though, they have them up for northern New Jersey, and they have them up for a few counties west of the Hudson, but they don't have them up for anybody else.
really, so it's
For
still
Long Island and for Connecticut and the lower Hudson Valley and New York
that's
City don't
weird.
have it.
That really is weird, and I'm wondering why that
I
is.
don't know. Flood watches up for northern New Jersey, the western counties of New Jersey, going all the way down into Delaware, Maryland, the Delmarva Peninsula, northeastern Virginia, down into western Virginia, uh, and eastern parts of West Virginia. Much of the east, at least the very least the eastern half of Pennsylvania, and then parts of southern New York into the Catskills. But that's it so far. And they've got this habit of going, kind of, piecemeal when it comes to this sort of stuff. So maybe tomorrow we'll wind up seeing them put up more flood watches up. The other thing that they went with, which I was kind of borderline on it yesterday, but I thought the gradient might be tight enough where they would have to do this. And they do have wind advisories up for central and south Jersey, southwest, into Delaware and eastern Maryland. So they got it up for that area, but they don't have it up yet for Long Island. I don't know why it's so weird. They've got small craft advisories and they've got gale warnings and then gale watches. It's like it's so confusing. The bottom line is the
Did
rain
they also have gale? Did they also have gale storm in
and
my
gale
area?
storm, right? By the way, they're going to go. They're going to go back to the old. Remember years ago, many years ago, it used to be a small craft warning, and then they changed it to a small craft advisory many years
Right,
ago. Well,
right.
now apparently they're thinking about going back to the small craft warnings and calling
Well,
them warnings instead of advisories.
it's like the song goes, everything old is new again, right?
Yep. Bottom line is, when small craft is up, most people don't go out in their boats. Rain is going to be a big deal, and SPC, which I'm so happy about, Joe. They upgraded their graphics a little bit. They made them bigger, which is really nice. So they got a nice size map now instead of the map that they used to have, which was the same map, just a little bit smaller.
I
So
noticed that.
so
That's
now
the
now
WPC, you mean?
WPC, correct. And
Right.
you're looking at most of what you're seeing here in terms of rain. Now, there's a little bit of added shower activity that's going to be around on Friday, and then again maybe late Sunday or Sunday night. and who knows what's going to happen later next week. But the bulk of this is going to be for later tomorrow and tomorrow night, and that the dark red is 2.5 inches. And you've got two shades above that in this small patch of orange in northeastern Pennsylvania. That's actually a 4 inch slot that they have up there. So they're very bullish here when it comes to race. You could see where you've got that red area is pretty much where WPC went with their flood watches, and there's a large area of the purple. The first purple is 1.5 inches. So when you get out of the blues and you go to that light blue, then you go to the purple. That purple area, that first shading, is 1.5 inches. So the vast majority of the area gets at least 1.5 inches of rain. That goes all the way down into South Carolina. So it's fairly extensive rain that we're going to get out of this.
And Joe, locally for us, I am mentioning the possibility for a thunderstorm in the forecast for late tomorrow and tomorrow night. However, and SPC, Storm Prediction Center, seems to concur on this. It seems like the best chance of getting any convective activity here locally might not come until later on Friday when
the upper low goes by.
When an upper level low goes by, and we may end up getting localized low top convection. So if you're a thunderstorm fan, that might be your best hope of seeing some thundery weather. Although again, some rumbles can't be ruled out here late tomorrow and tomorrow night, especially so tomorrow evening. I'm thinking that tomorrow evening, Joe, overall for the tri-state area, I'm thinking on average anywhere from 1.25 to 2.5 inches of rain, with about half of that coming in the 6-hour time frame from 8 o'clock tomorrow evening to about 2 o'clock on Friday morning. Combine that with winds, which could gust over 40 miles per hour, and it is going to be a downright nasty, if not downright stormy, period here for a while tomorrow night.
Yeah, the first part of the day tomorrow, I think, should be okay. There'll be a lot of clouds. There might be a couple of stray showers, and that's it. Here's SPC's view for severe weather, and of course they did it to me again, Joe. I did my weather in 5 this after. I did it around noontime today, and as soon as I finished it, they had a slight risk of severe weather throughout much of the southeast. As soon as I finished it, they updated the convective outlook, and they took out the slight risk, and they just left a marginal risk for the Carolinas, Georgia, and northern Florida for the rest of this evening and going into the overnight period. Also want to mention a small area of marginal risk in parts of eastern Oregon and a small portion of western Idaho. We don't get to say that too often.
Right.
And then as we move on, and here's what you were talking about with regards to Friday. It looks like they updated this a little bit for Friday. Let me make sure I got the time. No, this is Thursday into Friday.
Right.
Okay, I'm a little confused. All right, so that first map is for this evening into tomorrow morning. This is during the day tomorrow, where they have marginal risk up to the Delmarva Peninsula, southeastern Virginia, north and south, coastal North and South Carolina, and much of central and southern Florida, and also that marginal risk up in much of Idaho into Montana and Oregon on either side. And then as we move on to Friday, and this is what you were talking about earlier, they've got a small circle drawn over New Jersey, southern and southeastern New York, and much of Pennsylvania down into Maryland. That's because of that upper low that's going to be moving overhead. The upper trough is going to be crawling through here. It's going to create a very unstable atmosphere. And yeah, I wouldn't be at all surprised if we wind up seeing a few scattered thunderstorms pop up during the day on Friday when that, and as you said, they would be low top thunderstorms. Who knows? You might even get a little small hail out of it with a little luck.
And and you know, we all know that although this is not as potent a system as what we had a week ago on Monday, when we had that upper level disturbance touch off everything from gustnadoes to heavy rains and hail and whatnot. So I'm not saying that that's going to be the story on Friday, but what I am saying is that after seeing that if you were hoping for or looking for convective activity, that might very well be the best chance will be when that system moves overhead on Friday in the afternoon. And it looks like, Joe, now with guarded optimism, I was concerned about Saturday the last couple of days, but
and now you're not.
With guarded optimism now, I'm now saying partly sunny and a chance of maybe a. What's so funny? What?
Because I was the one who was guardedly optimistic for the last 2 days, and now I've gone the other direction, and I've gone to be a little more pessimistic about the whether that trough pulls out or not.
It's like bread butter. Bread
You
butter.
know, I'm sitting here today, and I'm looking at everything. I'm saying, Joe's going to wind up being right. Maybe that this upper low is going to take its time getting out of here, and we're going to wind up having to fight for at least through Saturday morning to fight with clouds. So I think maybe I'll be a little more pessimistic. And you
And
go ahead and
I went the other
switch.
way and saying partial sunshine, dry weather, and a temperature in the lower Hudson Valley around 67 degrees. So that is kind of funny. Yeah, now I can see that.
Yeah. So
Um,
now you're making me really do a total double take that's going to wind up saying my initial impression, which was the one I should have stayed with. All right, so
ah,
we placed our bets for Saturday. Now Sunday, I'm thinking the first part of Sunday should be okay. There's another front that's coming through late in the day or Sunday evening with maybe some showers with that. But with a little luck, maybe they hold off until after sunset. I don't know.
that's a funny thing. The GFS gives us some precipitation Sunday night, but not a whole heck of a lot. But boy, the European, I get a chance to see the
Yeah,
North.
yeah, it brings it's got the front coming, and then it brings the front through, and it's got a low that rides up and is off the coast by Monday morning.
I mean, it bats us around Sunday night like a pinata. So I,
Really,
but I'm just saying a chance for showers on Sunday night when we get
which
close
is
to.
what I kind of did. I did see
Yeah,
the European, I did see the maps, and I did put in the chance for showers on Sunday night, but I just kind of left it there. The two models, have diverged a lot lately, and I can't seem to get a feel for which one has got a better handle on things. Sometimes I really think that both models really just are horrible. They're just horrible. All right, so let's look at the radar tonight. There's not the severe weather. There was actually a lot of severe weather this morning down in southern Louisiana. There was a Boeing line of storms that went from southeast Texas across southeast Louisiana. Now that's long gone. And it was after that SPC took their risk levels down for the southeast. But they are getting some heavy showers and some embedded thunderstorms that are going on across the Florida Panhandle up through Georgia. And then as we go further north, we've got some heavy rains in eastern Kentucky and into parts of Ohio. The actual low center is back up near southern Lake Michigan. You see how the radar echoes sort of pinwheel there. And meanwhile, there's this arm, and this was funny because the GFS has been advertising this arm for days, and it wound up being correct. There's this arm of showers that's approaching now. Let me freshen this up just to get the latest one because it's moved along a bit. But looks like there's an arm of showers, and there might even be. I wonder if there's like a little thunderstorm embedded in there, moving out of northern New Jersey, northeastern New Jersey, and headed right for you. So you got some showers coming your way. It's not going to last long because the I don't know. Maybe it looks like that band is all of about 15 or 20 miles wide.
well, I hope my wife is tuned in upstairs and watching us. If she is, there you go, sweetie. She was asking me about the potential for wet weather overnight because she had just spent part of the afternoon putting down lime on the lawn
Of
and,
course,
and
naturally.
and trying to do that before it got wet. So he said, when is it going to get wet? When are we going to get some rain? I said a little bit tonight, more tomorrow, a lot tomorrow night. So
So she put the lime down.
she puts the lime down, and we're also going to we have to get grass seed. There are patches of our lawn that definitely need to get some grass put down or whatever. So,
Well, you got you
but
got
anyway,
you got the time to do it. And you know what? All this rain, the rain that we've had in the last couple of weeks out here, everything is green out here. I mean, the grass is just
oh yeah,
really just grown like wildfire. Meanwhile, you just look at the radar here. You don't see too much action going on anywhere else at the moment. Have a little bit of activity in northern Idaho and coming in to the Washington coast. Here's our surface map late this afternoon. Just going to see if the 21Z map is in, and it is. And we have a low sitting a 996 low on the east. Looks like it's on the eastern shore of Lake Michigan, probably somewhere northwest of Grand Rapids. And of course, you've got this trailing warm front slash stationary front that runs from the low into eastern Ohio, across northern Virginia. Temperatures in Virginia at 5 o'clock this afternoon were in the middle to upper 70s. And in fact, this morning, because there were some slivers of sunshine in parts of southern Pennsylvania down into Maryland, temperatures did initially climb well up into the 60s. And of course, once you got out of there was once you got into the clouds, then of course you had to deal with the temperatures that were a lot cooler. But now, of course, with everybody sitting in an overcast, we've seen those temperatures cool off in the last couple of hours, even in places down in the southwest, which were in the 60s, are now in the 50s. And of course, as you go to the north, places that were in the low 50s are now all in the 40s, except for Long Island, where we were pretty much in the 40s all day today. And here's what it looks like on the satellite, Joe. It's pretty impressive. You've got this rotation here with this low that's up over the eastern shore of Lake Michigan, the trailing clouds that go down into the Gulf of Mexico. But we don't seem to have the elements for severe weather here. So even though it does look fairly impressive on the satellite in terms of the feed of moisture, we don't seem to have the lift and the juicy dew points that you would like to see. And the shortwave, the trough is up to the north. You don't have a solid shortwave trough that's swinging down across the south to at least be a triggering mechanism for severe weather. So hey, that's good news, catching a break. But it's a fairly big system here, and it's going to take a while for it to play through. I'm just wondering where the upper low is, and you can see where the clouds hang back in parts of Iowa and into Missouri and Illinois. That's what we'll probably be fighting here on Saturday to see if they get out of the way or not.
And he's not on our chat board, Joe. Actually, he's lurking, I guess you could say, and watching our show at the moment. Bob Yedowitz, who I worked with for many, many years over at News 12 in Westchester. Bob is a specialist in gardening, and in fact, I'll give him a plug in Yonkers. Email Yedowitz's florists. He's, as I said, very big into gardening, and he says, Joe, you might not even need lime in the soil. Also, if you're going to plant grass, I suggest tall I fescue.
Fescue, yes.
Yeah. So that's what he said. So you see, people who are not even on the chat board, they're watching us right now. And Bob, who again is a gardening expert, is throwing out his little bit of gardening tips for which he often did when he was on News 12. And we miss him, but we miss him so much because he was great. He was the Westchester version, I guess, of the Dworkins.
Both.
In Westchester.
Both Stan and Floss.
Stan and Floss. He was like the Stan Dworkin of.
Are they
of
still
Westchester
with
in
us?
some ways?
Are they still with us?
I don't think so.
Okay, just wondering.
Still with us, but not Stan and Floss. Too bad.
Okay. You never know who's lurking about these days.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob. So here, I brought up SPCs. I'm really loving SPCs, this upper air that they have on the map graphically. It really shows you what's going on in the upper atmosphere, and you can actually see because they have the strong jet stream wind barbs plotted out, so you can see where the actual jet is digging southward. The strongest winds on the west side of the trough, so the trough is still digging here, as we refer. And of course, you see as the upper low matures, the trough doesn't lift up. It actually slides eastward. And this is, we talked about this yesterday. This is why it's not going to clear out quickly because, we're seeing this upper low just take its time. I mean, I just rolled through all of Thursday and, we've gone from an upper, we've gone from the low being, pretty much over near Chicago this evening. And by the time we get to Friday morning, that trough is sitting, the upper low is down into somewhere into northern West Virginia. And you still have southerly winds here blowing up the East Coast. So this is slowing the front down. But Joe, here's what you were talking about. You've got that upper low here that is going to be in play on Friday. It's going to be moving straight to the east and probably passing just to the south, across maybe southern New Jersey and moving offshore. So you're going to have that very cold, unstable pool of air aloft, and that's going to be your trigger mechanism, maybe for some scattered showers and some low top thunderstorms.
especially if we can then break, if we can break through the overcast and get even a little bit of sunshine to warm things up. That'll only stir the pot a bit more. So who's to say we have a little circular area of general thunderstorm activity projected for Friday? If memory serves me correct, they had that exact scenario for our area on the Saturday before the Monday outbreak. So
Right.
maybe tomorrow they'll put something like marginal risk, and maybe by the time we get to Friday, they might even have us in slight. Who's to say?
Yeah, I could go for the marginal. I don't know if you're going to get the slight risk, but I think you might wind up getting the marginal risk. So I just jumped up to the I've got the European up because that was the last thing I looked at before we came on the air. And here's your Monday, our Monday system, which went out, and of course now here's your low for Thursday, sitting in northeastern Indiana. Look at all those isobars along the east coast. Just a really, really tight pressure gradient. This map is the colors you see. That's the upper air. That's the jet stream that I just showed you on here from SPC. So this is what it looks like on the European, these solid colors. So the darker you get into the greens and blues, that's colder air aloft. But you can see how tight the gradient is along the east coast. So there's going to be gusty winds from North Carolina all the way up into south coastal New England. Might even be a little bit of tidal flooding at high tide with this for the
Yeah,
south facing shorelines.
no question about, and the fact that it's coming, or the heaviest winds are going to be coming during the period I think of heaviest rainfall tomorrow evening, with gusts, as I said, to over 40, especially along the coast. So it is not going to be a very pretty picture out there 24 hours from now, as we're just entering that period of heavy rain and heavy wind. And you're right, there could be. Let's see, we're actually coming up on full moon, so actually we're not. We're at first quarter. Sorry about that. I'm in a lunar frenzy here, which is good because a first quarter or a last quarter moon means we're seeing neap tides, not astronomically higher than normal or spring tides.
Right.
The last thing we need, especially along the south coast of, let's say, Westchester or the South Shore of Long Island, is a full moon or a new moon and a very vigorous or robust southerly wind to help push all that water on shore. Not to say it's going to be a picnic tomorrow anyway, even without the moon.
First surface low right overhead Friday morning over New York City. You can see where that patch of lighter green is over West Virginia. That's your upper low. Again, going back to SPC's map, you can see the upper low here Friday morning. That's the same time frame as this map here. Here's your upper low on the European. Hang on, let me get my little drawing table here. So there's your upper low right there. So your jet stream, your height lines are running like this. So your surface low now at the coast and starting to move out. Now you look at the European, Joe, and you've got a low that's sitting over Nova Scotia by Saturday morning with northerly isobars here and the trough now out to the east. This would support the notion, which was my original notion, that we would see improving weather conditions here on Saturday, that it should be an okay day. So the European is on your side. I believe the NAM was the one that was being a little stubborn with getting that low out of the way. And the GFS also gets it out of the way. So, maybe I'll change my forecast back tomorrow. We'll see. And then, of course, you go into Sunday. We've got a west wind, at least to start today. And here's the low on the European. The next one, there's a trailing cold front that is running back over through the Western Lake. So what the European basically does, and we don't have the in-between maps, is that it tries to bring the front through, and then it develops this 998 low, or 996 low, southeast of Montauk by Monday morning. So with a cold trough that's swinging by up in the northern part of the jet stream that's swinging around. Did it? I didn't even think to look. If this is the case, I'm wondering, is it showing some snow up in northern New England with this?
You know, why not? It's been a crazy April. Why not carry that over into
It's nuts.
May?
And of course, that low that low actually winds up going nowhere. It cuts off southeast of Cape Cod, and is sitting there on Monday night and Tuesday with northeast winds from New Brunswick and Nova Scotia down into eastern New England. Yeah, I gotta wonder whether the European might have done something with some snow up in northern New England. I gotta go check the maps. I didn't look. I happened to look at the snow maps, and of course, as soon as that pulls out and you go into the middle of next week, here comes the next one from the Great Lakes to West Virginia with a high up in eastern Canada. This one, the European tries to suppress to the south and east. And, maybe as we get toward the end of next week and next weekend, finally pull the trough out and build a ridge and warm things up around here. Maybe. I don't know. That's the European's view of things. It has an opinion. It has a right to have its own weather opinion. The other models might have a different opinion, uh, uh, which they all have the right to have their own opinions too. So let's go to the GFS. So I'm going to just use the preset map here. They notice the GFS was not quite as dynamic, but that doesn't mean anything since that model loves to suppress. So of course, here are your showers and storms and heavy rains for Thursday. It's this sort of very narrow, slow-moving line that takes all day to move across Pennsylvania. Really fires up nicely on the GFS anyway, Joe, in Virginia and down in North Carolina with some heavy rains, probably some severe thunderstorms in there. And then here we go for Thursday night into Friday morning. And then, of course, you see the lingering low Friday afternoon and evening, maybe some showers and a thunderstorm possible there. And then as we go into Saturday, it pulls the low out fairly quickly. And then here comes the next front on Sunday. The GFS is not picking up on the Europeans' idea of a wave coming out from the southwest and moving up into New England. It just basically takes the whole trough across Canada, southeastern Canada, and over New Brunswick and Newfoundland, and just moves it along. So you have a totally different outlook here. If the GFS is right, it'll just be chilly and dry Monday into Tuesday, and then we'll have to wait to see what happens toward the middle of next week, whether we have to deal with another low by then.
And if you're looking for a warm up, Joe, I know you keep talking about that ridge possibly building in here to warm things up a little bit. You're at odds apparently with the Climate Prediction Center folks because for the 6 to 10 day
Well,
outlook,
the Climate Prediction Center and I have never seen eye to eye on certain things, but go on.
the 6 to 10 day outlook, which takes us through the period May 5th to May 9th, has us verging now just off to our north and west on 80% probability of below normal temperatures. And on the 8 to 14 day outlook, they are talking about the entire Northeast in a zone of at least 70% probability. That takes us all the way up to the 13th of May. So if you believe the folks over at the Climate Prediction Center, more often than not, from the 1st of May, or at least from the 5th of May on to the middle part of the next month, we're going to be seeing anywhere from 70 to almost 80% probability of below normal temperatures.
Well, the teleconnections don't really. I mean, we have a very, very strong positive PNA right now that's going to be on the strong side up until about the 9th of May. And then it starts to weaken a bit, but it's still positive. And the NAO is weekly negative now and then just goes weekly positive. And the EPO, which is somewhat positive now, just kind of goes neutral to slightly negative. So I'm not really getting any real signal one way or the other with regards to the teleconnections. And I'm just going to do a quickly look at this upper air on the GFS. And of course, this trough pulls out. You've got another diver here I'm sorry, this is the one from the weekend. Here's the one for Thursday that's coming for Thursday. And then that lifts out. And then you've got the next one behind it in southeastern Canada. And then there's more energy that drops down later next week in the northern part of the jet stream. Flow's kept pretty much to the northwest. And now we're into about May 11th, and there's still troughing here in the east. It's after about May 10th or 11th that the trough kind of pulls out a bit, and you get a little bit of ridging. But it's not something that looks permanent because there's still more energy swinging down and around. So you know what? Maybe those the long range boys uh, might have a point, right? With regards to it being mostly chillier than average going into mid-May.
You might, Rabbit, you might.
You might, Rabbit. You might. Yes. Too bad Clancy was too busy taking the boys and surrounding the house.
Right.
So let me just get
It's probably the ice house. Huh.
correct. So hang on, I'm just trying to bring. Oh, no, that's not what I want. There we go. I'm just doing a little maneuvering. So anyhow, uh, hope everybody had a nice day today. Today I did 7 miles.
I think Bob Yedowitz actually is now on the chat board. I think it's him, Robert Yedowitz. Well, how many Yedowitzes possibly could there be, right? He says, my father always said, quote, don't plant tender annuals until after May 15th, at least in Westchester, cooler areas after Memorial Day, June 1st.
Yeah, I mean, if you're inside the confines of New York City, you could almost get away with putting annuals down near the end of April. But yeah, if you, I always told people, told people out here in Suffolk County where I am, to wait at least into early May before you put it down, because we get these weird radiation nights here where it still could go down into the 20s under the right circumstances.
It's amazing to me of all the places in the tri-state region, and you think about places that could really get cold in a radiational situation, like for example places north of Interstate 84, but still, the pine barrens out in eastern Long Island really drop faster and quicker. The only other place that might do that or might equal that would be the pine barrens in New Jersey, like right outside of Tom's River.
Oh yeah, I don't know what goes on in Tom's River. I really don't. That's a weird place. They get super hot when it comes to days in the summertime. If you get a west wind, they fly to 100, and at the same time at night and they radiate so quickly. I mean, even in the evening hours, just before sunset, the temperatures start taking a big drop. I don't know what goes on over there.
I used to do what I did, in fact, for many years, from about 1980 to 95, actually, 15 years. I did the weather for WOBM in Tom's River. The
Yeah,
call
I,
letter
I did OBM for a while too.
station call letter standing for Ocean, Burlington, and Monmouth counties, but they were primarily an Ocean County radio station. And I agree with you. That was a wacky area to try to forecast for.
Josh Chang wants to know from you, Joe, how much rain will they have in Westchester?
Oh, well, I said on average for the tri-state area, it's hard to put a specific number on a specific place because some of this might be convective, but I'd say at least an inch and a quarter to maybe as much as 2.5 inches. You're going to get a nice soaking, no question about that. And that would be for the 48-hour interval that starts in a half an hour from 8 o'clock now to 8 o'clock on Friday, which takes into account, of course, the potential on Friday afternoon of those low top thunderstorms that may or may not pop up as well. So if you want rain, if you're a duck, you're going to enjoy the next 36 to 48 hours, no question about that.
Uh, Wait a
And
minute.
half of that, and what may lead to flash flooding or flooding in general, or ponding on some roadways, will be the 6 hour interval from 8 o'clock tomorrow night to 2 o'clock on Friday morning, Joe, because in that 6 hour interval, all of that rain that I just mentioned, and about 50% of it is going to fall in that 6 hour time frame, I think, and that's going to lead to a lot of problems. But again, how many people are driving now in the current situation, right?
Yeah, I actually went to get gas for the first time in a month
Oh, so you're
today.
getting So you're getting 3 or 4 weeks to the gallon, right?
Oh, easily, easily. And
Yeah.
I had a little bit less than a half a tank, so I didn't even have to get gas.
And what did
Uh,
you have to pay? What did you have to pay?
well, you know what? I went locally because and I don't quite understand this, but gasoline prices on the North Shore for whatever reason have been really, really stubborn to drop. So they're still, they're hovering between $1.99 and 2.09. But
Oh,
I could have gone to Costco. It's a 10-mile drive. I could have gone to the Costco gas station, and regular is $1.25 at
oh,
the Costco station. $1.25. And you go down toward the South Shore. The gas prices are a lot lower. They're down in the 150, 160 range in a lot of places. So I haven't figured. These guys haven't even moved. They haven't changed their prices since we went into lockdown back in early March. Are you still in the $2 and change up there?
Yeah, yeah, we're still, but you're right because they're still trying to get rid of all that gas
Yeah,
before they're
it's not like they replaced it with cheaper gas. This is the gas that they bought back in February.
right.
So until they have to resupply, they're not going to they're not selling the gas they have, because it's so funny. On a given day, you go by the gas. There's quite a few gas stations here, and when you go by on an average day, you'll always find several cars at each station doing their thing. Well, night most times as I'm driving and I pass these gas stations, almost all of them are empty. They're almost always empty. Every once in a while, you get a car in there. So, yeah, they're still probably holding on to that same supply.
And you know what might do well, if any of you out there are getting gas now for whatever reason, before you get the gas, maybe you might want to stop at your local Home Depot or your local automotive station and get
Wear
a
your
bottle of
mask.
excuse me?
Make sure you got your mask on
Yeah,
when you
but
go to
may
Home Depot.
right. If you do that, get a bottle of Stable.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I have that. That's great stuff.
and throw it. Because
Stabilizer.
that gas has been sitting around in the tank at the gas station since February or March. You really ought to.
Oh
Uh,
no, it could go. Even just the fact if you haven't taken your car out for a joyride, if your car sits around for a couple of months, the gas starts to gum up. So yeah, that's a good idea. Throw a little stabilizer in there.
right.
By the way, just a couple of side notes, because I don't know if people uh, were paying attention to what was going on news today, but the news story, the story on remdesivir, the drug remdesivir that Gilead had in trials, that's a big deal. The trials actually showed that the drug has some effect in shortening the duration of the virus, and it wasn't like statistically meaningless. This was done with a placebo group and double blind, and then the National Institute of Health, which is that's the top standard. They also had a study on remdesivir that they weren't supposed to come out with until the end of May. They released it this morning, and it shows that the drug actually does have some effect. So this is very good news from the
Dr.
standpoint.
Fauci,
I mean,
yeah,
Dr. Fauci talked about it today on his press conference.
right. In fact, he said he was very, very excited, and they may actually, there's a certain waiting period that they have to go through before they clear a specific drug, and they may actually waive that because they feel so confident or so enthused about the possibility. This is not, to use Dr. Fauci's words, anecdotal evidence. This is hardline evidence that they say this
Yes.
particular drug may very well, if not stop it, at least slow down the spread
Yeah,
considerably.
they had it was statistically significant. The reduction in they gave the drug to they gave the drug to people that had the disease in a big way, and it reduced the recovery time from 15 days to 11 days. So the thinking is, if they can give it to you, if you can give it to you fast enough, if they catch you early and they give it to you, that it'll be like Tamiflu. The only thing is, this is not in pill form; it's in IV form.
Right,
So you'd have to, I guess you'd have to get a drip. So I don't know how. I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head. So
right.
I got links on my Facebook page, and I threw something up this morning up on Discord with regards to that. I just think it's worth a read because this is something that really is meaningful. And the stock market took it that way because your 201k, Joe, is probably now back up to a 301k.
Yes,
So that's good. So now we just have to get it back to a 401k.
we're doing the best we can, aren't we? I've
We
got some news. I got some news for you since you're such a big fan of the morning versions of Perry Mason.
Yes.
And I told you that in recent years, MeTV has had in the month of May. They have called that Perry Mason, and they've shown a number of special episodes, including the one and only colorized episode of Perry Mason, which was in the ninth season, episode number 20.
And that was on this morning?
No, they when in the regular run of Perry Mason, they have often jumped over that episode. I
And
guess this
showed
is
it for
the
Mason, right, for
same,
May.
but this year, instead of Perry Mason, they're having a special month devoted to Mayberry.
Right.
All of the shows, in fact, Mayberry RFD, which I haven't seen in God knows like over 40 years, is going to be resurrected on MeTV in a few days. But what that means is that apparently they're going to stick the color version back into the rotation, and that particular episode comes up tomorrow.
Oh, great! I DVR Perry. I DVR both the morning and the nighttime Perry Masons, and then I watch them during the day the next day. So I watched last night's one earlier. Now I have to go when we're done. I'm going to go upstairs and watch this morning's episode. So don't tell me what it was.
Wasn't last night's version, or maybe I'm confusing with the version? One of them had Edgar Buchanan.
Yeah,
Uncle,
that was last night. Yes,
that was last night.
Edgar Buchanan. He was the
All right,
judge, the
all right, Mr.
cranky judge.
Mason.
Exactly.
It's so weird when you see a person, an actor, play a role for so long, and then when he is playing a different character, it's hard for you to accept.
But he's
Accept it.
basically playing the same kind of guy, except he was a judge in a small town, as
Right,
opposed to running a hotel.
right.
You know.
And interestingly, if you're an old-time radio fan, the Lux Theater, which the Lux Radio Theater used to take movies and bring back the actors to play the same roles, but on radio. That was the Lux Movie Theater. And for Pride of the Yankees, if you saw that movie, the Lou Gehrig story,
Gary
in,
Cooper,
in
Teresa
Gary Cooper,
Wright,
and the newspaper
Walter Brennan.
was Walter Brennan, but they couldn't get Walter Brennan to play the newspaper role for the Lux Radio Theater. So who did they end up getting? Edgar Buchanan.
Oh, really? Very
So
interesting.
and I'm listening to this one night on the way coming home from work one night, listening to this on an out of town radio station that plays old time radio, and I'm saying I can't get into this. I can't get into. Here's Gary Cooper, and he's talking to Uncle Joe from Petticoat
Yeah,
Junction.
you know what? Sometimes it is tough. You know, certain certain roles, certain iconic, character roles played by, you know, these well known character actors where they really become the part. You don't. It's often hard to see them when they're playing other parts.
Right.
Steve Lapointe hit super chat, by the way. I just want to say big thank you very much, Steve, for doing that. Really appreciate it, Joe and I. Thank you.
Always do. So anyway, Joe, tomorrow morning you'll be able to get it, and anybody else who's never seen it before, a real Perry. Not I'm not talking about the later on, like on NBC, they had a whole series of Perry Masons which were in color, but that came many years after the original series. This is the original series, and in the ninth season, I guess they figured let's try a color episode and see whether or not we can use that to maintain our presence. But they got canceled anyway, some days or weeks later. But it's the one and only old Perry Mason that has actually been filmed in the beautiful, you know, color.
Color. We'll have to see what Della looks like
Yes.
in color. All right, so let's do a little Briller Jeopardy. Okay, so tonight's category is state capitals. It's a two-parter. Okay,
All right.
the only one syllable state capital.
The only one syllable state
State
capital.
capital.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's obviously not Albany. Hartford, no. Burlington, no. Concord, no.
You got 45 states left.
Augusta, Carson City. Ah, I don't know.
Uh, it's Pierre,
Pierre.
South Dakota.
You know, I did for a short time. I did that city in South Dakota on radio. There was a radio station out there. I don't remember the call letters. And I said in the very first recording forecast, I said Pierre, and the guy stopped me and said, no, 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 no. He says it's not Pierre. It looks like Pierre, but it's not. It's called Pierre.
Here.
Pierre, South Dakota. So
All right. So the second part is the first in alphabetical order. The first capital and the last capital.
well, I don't know. I don't think it's Albany.
It is Albany.
It is Albany.
That's the first one.
How do you like that? And the last one?
The last one.
Uh,
In not no actually it's you can drive to it from Albany.
I can drive through it from
No,
Albany.
you can drive to it from
Oh,
Albany.
drive to it from Albany.
Yeah. I mean, it's not down the block up obviously. You're going to have to cross into another state, but you can actually drive it in less, in a reasonable amount of time. With,
Uh-huh.
if you left early in the morning, you would get there sometime in the afternoon.
Mm. No, not Raleigh. Um, Richmond, Raleigh,
Further north.
further north.
Yeah.
Huh. Wheeling,
No.
not Wheeling.
Trenton.
Trenton?
Trenton.
Really? Okay. All right.
Trenton is a T.
Yeah. You know, it's the greatest feat of strength ever.
What?
Wheeling, West Virginia.
Wheel. Wheelie. I get it. Oh, you're such a card. You need to be dealt with. Uh,
You know,
uh,
Tuesday, Cinco de Mayo.
yes, I
And
got
I
my.
was
I got to get my menu planned for Tuesday.
and I said to Renata last night, I said, if this Friday were pizza day at our old haunts,
Hmm.
iOS One News, probably we would have had Mexican food in honor of Cinco de Mayo.
Oh yeah, Ralph would have brought in Mexican
Yeah.
food. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Oh well.
that's it. Oh well, exactly. Oh God. So that is that. We will call it a night.
I guess we will.
All right. So tomorrow night, same bat time, same bat channel, right here on my YouTube channel. So if you're watching this for the first time, make sure you hit the subscribe button and join the party on the chat board. Doesn't cost you a thing to subscribe. Just use your Gmail account and then march your fanny over to Joe Rayo's page,
Right.
YouTube channel, Joe Rayo Weather, so that
Joe
if so that you have both of us.
We're still slowly but surely working our way toward the 1,000 mark. I think we're about 750 right now.
Yeah,
So
I'm at 9,200, but it's taken forever.
oh,
It's like one here, one then I'll gain to two or three subscribers, and then you'll get these bots that subscribe and then they disappear. So then you look a couple of days later and now you've suddenly lost 4 subscribers. But I'm hoping that at least by the time we get to the end of hurricane season, that because that's usually a good time to pick up subscribers.
you realize how many potential subscribers we lost because of this cruddy winter that we had?
Oh yeah, well that's just it. Spring is not. Spring is spring, and it doesn't. The severe weather doesn't actually, because it's localized. It doesn't run the excitement that snow does.
Right.
And then, of course, the tropical season brings a whole new angle to it. So anyway, we have a lot of fun doing it, whether we get new subscribers or not. Our families here on YouTube are growing slowly but surely.
Yes.
So, and besides, we were doing this social distancing thing long before all those other networks were doing it.
Absolutely.
And you know what? Unlike on CNBC yesterday, where they cut to the reporter at her house and the cleaning lady was behind her, and she's going like this, get out of the shot, You know what the one fun thing is though? What's really funny because it happens quite a bit actually when I'm watching shows when I'm watching news shows. I just watch I just watch CNBC most of the time, and they're doing a lot of the morning three anchor show. You've got two of the anchors at home, and one anchor is in a studio. But oftentimes you can hear the audio from the control room, or they might not turn the audio off on the anchor, and they're still talking and having a separate conversation. So
Right.
they got hot mics, and that could be very dangerous because you can
Indeed.
because you're saying things, and sometimes there's stuff always going on behind the scenes that doesn't really you don't really know about, and sometimes uh, it could get a little heated, but I haven't seen anything bad, so which is good, which is a good thing.
If you ever, and you could do it right now, right after we're done here on Joe and Joe, but you can go on YouTube, type in on YouTube, JFK assassination, comma, ABC TV, and you will see the coverage of ABC. Unlike, they were the third network. Unlike NBC and CBS that already had, studios up and ready to go, at ABC apparently they only had one studio which they used for several different shows. They had not yet put the studio together for the evening news. And so you had their number one news anchor at the time. His name was Ron Cochran. Picture this, he's got headphones on, he's holding a telephone. Some guy is handing him a microphone, and while all this is happening, you see some of the workmen behind him putting the studio to get
Yeah.
together. Not the kind of background one when you're reporting on what, in essence, was the news story, the TV news story of the century. But that's the way things were at ABC back in the early '60s.
And Jeffrey Merritt points out because I did actually see the picture of the anchor that they was was at home, and the angle of the camera was such that he had on his shirt and tie, but he had no pants on, the angle of the camera actually caught the fact that you could see that he
He didn't
had
have
had
hands
any
on.
pants on. Yeah, well, listen, I worked in stations where the anchors, at a time when they sat at a desk through the whole show, which they don't really do anymore. But they, they would have shorts on, and as I worked down south, so it was always hot. So you have a shirt and a tie, and then you'd have shorts and sneakers on underneath. Could never
Yep.
do that as a weather person because we always had to be standing up.
Right.
So we always had to wear, nice long pants.
But I remember a couple of times, in fact, they mentioned this on in a newspaper article. It was on Newsday. Somebody was observing you at News 12 Long Island doing the weather, and they mentioned that you were wearing a pair of Converse sneakers.
Oh yeah, I used to wear my sneakers. I had to do all those weather hits running up and down hallways. Paula McLennan has just become a new subscriber. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And now, Paula, when we're done, go over to Joe Rayo Weather and subscribe to his YouTube channel too. All right,
Yes.
so we're going to call it a night. Thanks again, everybody, for being here. Stay safe, social distancing, and we will see you tomorrow. Good night, everybody.